So as we have discussed in the first slide, cultural diversity, lots of different cultures, lots of people from different, languages and geographical boundaries come into each other's contact for the exchange of products and services. And every country has a way of talking to each other, which may not be available or which is not understood by the other person from the foreign lands. So it's very important that when you are planning your meetings, when you're planning to go to a particular country, you should do your basic research on communication, greetings, and the way they communicate. Because if you see broadly, it's a communication game. You are going to communicate in an effective and efficient way to the person of different culture or country, so that he or she buys your product and service and gives you in exchange the money that you expect. As you can see on this slide, this is one of the way how we react in different countries. Even in India, we use our fingers like this sometimes to say that you actually like something. It's fantastic, which is similar in US and UK. But when you see in Brazil, it's considered an insult. So just imagine an Indian or a person from USA going to Brazil, and on being asked whether he or she liked the Brazilian food, and he makes this kind of gesture, this would be an insult. And this can really hurt the customer, and probably all your hard work that you have been doing for years and months to develop a good rapport with this client just goes for a toss because of this small gesture that you're doing. I'm not saying that you will lose the opportunity, but you understand that communication plays an important role to connect humans, and based on such gestures and your way of communicating with people from foreign countries and cultures can really go a long way in troubling your business. Another good example could be greetings. As I told you that I faced a lot of troubles when I first landed in Brazil on my first trip from India for a period of 1 month. I was not really well versed with their culture, their language, their greetings, which I learned after coming back from that trip. I would like to share with you here. Uh, just like you can see in this picture, the person seems to be from Japan, and that is how they greet, you know. And another lady looks like an American person who's shaking hands, which they normally do the moment they meet somebody on a professional or a personal trip. So these kind of confusions can create situations which may not leave a good first impression. However, we all know that a first impression is the last impression. So on the similar lines, I would share with you a small example which I faced. In countries like Europe or in Latin America, people like to greet, when they meet new people by, by giving you a peck or a kiss on your cheeks. I was not aware of that because I'm talking about 13 years back. Internet was not really strong. We were not, having all those information. And I told you that we had no business in that country. So I was given a virgin country to explore business. So I did not have much of the background about countries, culture, and language. So whosoever I met, I wanted to shake hand, which kept going on for a few days. So one of my client whom I met many times throughout this week or my stay in this country told me that in their country they prefer to greet by kissing on both the cheeks after we are meeting more than one time. I learned it from them, and next meetings, whosoever came across me, I started giving a peck on both the sides. I was confident. I was happy that people were accepting me. They were in awe. They were shocked that this person coming from India, he has done some research about our culture, and they were really feeling comfortable with me. The confusion arose when I traveled from Brazil to Peru and Chile, which are again Latin American countries, but the culture differs. Now, when I met people in Chile, in Peru, uh, people there follow only one peck. They do not follow two pecks on the cheeks. And their confusion again arose in my mind that I just learned something in my past trip. And after, after a month, I'm in a new country and there people are greeting in a different way, and there were confusions. They were trying to, greet me one way and I was doing it two ways. So, even in the same continent, there are different cultures you should really try to learn about. Of course, I know you cannot know about somebody's culture 100%, but based on what I'm sharing with you, based on your research, based on whatever information is available on internet, it's always better to be well versed about basic culture practices, body language and greetings. It really goes a long term. It really helps you a lot to develop that much needed rapport with your customers. As I've covered, we come from different countries with different way of greetings. So it's always good to go with basic greetings that you can learn from your home country. When you're traveling to the particular nation, you should also know, if you're meeting a Japanese client or if you're meeting an American client, how do you greet them? Do you give them an offer, of a gift? Some people like gifts, some people like hugs, some people like a peck on their cheeks. So you should be well versed about that. Gone are the days when people thought it was all about, just selling your product. It's not really that. Nowadays, it's more about selling yourself, selling your company, selling your complete offering. So please mind that when you are thinking of moving to a foreign land and about planning a meeting with a foreigner from a different country. So that's what basically happens. I don't know, most of you must have also traveled to foreign lands, and we always have an expectation that since English is a universal language, everybody in that country would help us. But I would like to share a small experience that happened with me on the airport in Chile, which is one of the South American countries with the highest GDPs, most developed country. So while I was on the airport, I had a connecting flight from Chile to Mexico. I was shocked that on the airport itself, I was expecting that they would be speaking English because they know people who are traveling through international airport are not Chilean nationals. Of course, most of them are foreigners. So I had a connecting flight, which this lady could not understand. They kept me on hold for more than an hour. I was troubled. I called back India. I spoke to my agent that, I'm being troubled. I'm not being allowed to board the flight to my next destination because they are not able to understand what you have given me. My ticket was in English. In their system, they were finding some discrepancy. After 45 minutes or more than that, I spoke to the higher authorities. Uh, they spoke to my Indian counterpart. My Indian counterpart not even was well versed with good English because he was a ticket agent. So his English was very poor. So that was a troublesome situation. And finally, it got corrected with the help of senior officials who were called from the nearby, services from other airlines. Like we have different airlines on the airport. So they called people from United Airlines, which is for USA. They came, they spoke to me, they checked their systems and they allowed me to board the flight. But that experience left a permanent impression on my mind that you may be in a developed country, you may be on places like airports, but it's always important, to have basic information, basic details in other languages. So now whenever I travel, I make sure that I print my tickets, my hotel reservations in both the languages. You now get an option to either print it in English or the foreign language. So I print it both ways, and that helps me a lot. So that if there is a person who's not able to understand me in English, can see the ticket, my airline ticket or my reservation in the hotel in their language, and can allow me a trouble-free entry. Well, we all know body language is an important part of communication. I just discussed this with you in the past slides. Communication, eye contact, the way you appear in front of your client, your dressing, uh, it's very important. Also, you should rate how your client wants you to, greet them. Like some people who are not aware would like to hug them at once. Probably the client of yours is not really comfortable with that way of greeting. So you should give some time and see how your client is reacting before reacting at them. You should really not use the slangs which you use in your domestic countries, because that particular person who's meeting you it may not be aware about the slangs in our own country. So it is always good to speak to them in a clear, simple English language or whatever language you are trying to communicate with them. Do not use slang. Try to be a little slow so that they can pick each and every word. Keep asking them if they are able to follow you. So these are certain things you should keep in mind. There is a small thing that we were taught when I started traveling from my company. Uh, we were always taught to be dressed up really, really, really well, even if your client is casual. Uh, if you go towards USA, the American clients prefer to be very, very casual. In at least in my kind of trade where we were exporting engineering products, they would be very comfortable in t-shirts and long shorts, and they don't really care about what they are dressing up. But we as exporters, we as representatives of our country must understand that we are going there for a professional cause, so we should stick to our dressing and not try to behave or try to fit ourselves the way our client is doing, because it's their own country and we are a rep of our own domestic country. So we should stick to what we are doing. Although if you will move towards countries like Japan and China, you will find them always professionally dressed. This is very important because it talks a lot about your professionalism, the company you are representing, the country you are representing as well. So this is really important. Also, I have not mentioned this point in my presentation, but I would like to share. When we were traveling to these countries, we always made sure that we stayed in hotels which were of good repute. If we were not, if we did not have information about which hotel would be good in which city, we would ask our client to get a reservation done. This helps in many ways. Most of the time when you're going for the first time to meet a client, they would show you a kind gesture by dropping you to their hotel. They will take you back to your hotel, and there the kind of place you are staying in talks a lot about your company, your country, and you know, uh, this may affect the decision your client is about to take about your offering of starting the business with them. If you're staying in a shabby hotel, if you are dressing up very shabbily, you does not look confident, you do not look decent enough, people in export market in other countries would not be able to trust you and would not want to invest huge amount of money in international business on your company or yourself. Since you are the representative of your product, your company and your country, make sure these things are taken care of no matter what. So I think from these slides, we will start talking about the actual risks that are involved in international trade. And these could be of many types. There are different risks. There are different problems that comes in the way of an exporter as well as importer, which we will keep discussing in coming slides. A few of them are appearing on the screen. It's like buyer risk would be late arrival of good, damage in transit. So just imagine a buyer who has placed an order with you in India. You promised them that you will dispatch this goods from India in 2 months, because this client has an order in his hand to sell your product further to another client in next 3 months. So if your products reaches the country of discharge, the country of destination, late, like in next 4 months instead of 2 months, chances are the importer would have lost the business he had in his hand, and he may not be able to sell the product he has bought from you. He may go for a huge loss, and this business will never continue. So it's a buyer risk. It's a risk on the buyer's point, because he, after transferring the payment to you, after giving you the purchase order, he has to just sit and wait for the goods to arrive in his home country. Also, there could be a damage during the transit. As I've told you, just for an example, imagine you have your manufacturing facility in Delhi and the nearest port is Mumbai, from where you are shipping. Uh, if you do not transport the goods from Delhi to Mumbai in via better routes, in via good packing, strong packing like wooden pallets, If your products are damaged in the transit and are ignored at the port of loading, and they are sent the same way in the broken or in the damaged shape to your client, this can mean that the customer would not be able to sell these broken and damaged product to his future clients, and maybe a loss to him. So we have to understand these are few very small risks that the buyer has involved in an import business. And as an exporter, we can really help them by keeping a check on each and every step that we are taking, from manufacturing this product to loading of this product into the containers before actual shipment from our country. Seller's risk would include late arrival of good, damage in transit, which we again just discussed in buyer risk. The risk is same for both. Why? Because if your goods are reaching late in the buyer's country, he would not be able to sell it to his customers. He would not give you a repeat business, and your business is at a standstill. Of course, if there's a damage in the transit, your buyer will not pay you the huge amount. If they have already paid you the huge amount in advance, they would ask you for a credit note, which means you will have to give them a credit for the damaged product, and which is going to be a part of your margin that you calculated beforehand. There are logistic risks like foreign currency risk, payment methods. Payment methods, as I have already discussed with you, is a very, very important point to consider. It involves a lot of things like information on the companies you are going to start business with, the policies of your country, the background of the customer, the client, the companies you are going to start business in the foreign lands. So it's very important to check the background and then only approve various payment methods, because risk in case of payment can really put your business into jeopardy. Next is a commercial risk, which is the most common risk in any export or international trade. So there are payment methods, again, payment terms that we discussed. There are a lot of customers who prefer different payment terms and payment methods. You will hear, or you must have heard during your internship, that foreign buyers prefer to work on letter of credit. However, an exporter like from India in our case would always prefer an advance payment. Reason being, if you have an advance against a confirmed order, you are sure that even if you have received 50% advance, most of the cost that you have incurred in manufacturing the goods is in your hand. So the risk is half now. In the same way, if the foreign buyer is working with you on a letter of credit, he or she is sure that only when the goods are delivered to him or her in their foreign land, then only their bank will release the payment to our bank. And if there is any discrepancy in the decided terms of business, it is the exporter who will lose money and not the importer. So this is a safe term. We have to see what kind of term, what kind of pricing, what kind of costing strategy, is a win-win for both the parties involved. Last is country risk. Now, when you plan to work with a different country, you have to ensure about the various political risks, economic risk, cultural risk. These are factors which directly or indirectly affects your and your importer's business in various countries. So nowadays, thanks to technology and globalization, we all are very much well versed about what is happening in the other side of the world. We know if there is any problem going on in Argentina, or if there any major problem going on in Venezuela for that particular thing, or there is a war going on between negotiation war, I would call, between US and China. A lot of discord is happening. So we know what is happening between which nation, and you can think of your future strategies upon the ongoing problems. So just like we discussed, political risks are risks that occur on part of the government of the countries who are involved in the business. There could be a chance where there are riots, there are wars, there are times when the government does not want to support the country of the exports from where the goods are coming into the country. So we have to consider political risk in to our mind, which is really important.
Mr. Sumit, can I just put a remind, even though it's a very interesting session, but I'll appreciate if we can just take a 5 minutes break.
Sure.
So we can resume at 12:15 then, and
Sure.
we'll quickly take a 5 minutes break.
Sure, sure.
Right. So all of you, all the students also are requested to resume back at 12:15. We'll have a quick break of 5 minutes.
In the meantime, ma'am, can I speak with him?